So you're meaning to tell me this dude gets traded to the fucking Wizards? Like, you literally just got traded to a team that's just as bad, if not worse, bro. Like, come on. Like, all the Trae Young rumors of getting traded the past 2 or 3 years were all to contending teams or teams that he would make a contender, and he gets traded to an equally as bad dumpster fire of a team, man. Some other people might understand this move more than I do, man, but I just don't. Like, I mean, yeah, no. Let me know what y'all think about this Trae Young move, man. I really want to see a variety of thoughts here, just because. Is there something behind this I'm missing?
Hell nah, bro. Hey, yo, there's no way in hell that this is a real trade. I understand the man done had a few injuries, but you cannot convince me that in 2026, this is all Trae Young is worth. This Facebook marketplace ass deal, Atlanta. I thought your city was the mecca of scamming. How you let the Washington Wizards finesse y'all like this? Listen, over the past few years, the NBA has just been throwing around picks. I seen borderline all-stars go for 2 first-rounders, 5 second-rounders. And you mean to tell me it wasn't not Nan pick in this trade? Just CJ and Corey. And it's no disrespect to them fellas because they hoopers. But we talking about 4-time all-star and a walking 20 and 10 in Trae Young, bro. This is insane. Bro, this is a recession indicator. Y'all out here having yard sales with stars. I ain't never seen nothing like this. You can't even make this trade on 2K. This T-Mobile ass deal. Trading your old phone will upgrade you for free. Here it is. Yo, I understand Trae wanted to go to Washington, but y'all was being a little too generous.
I knew Trae Young's value was low, but being that low was a little bit shocking to me. Career averages of 26 points almost, 9 assists. He's third all time in assists per game behind John Stockton and Magic Johnson. He gets traded for CJ McCollum, who's on an expiring deal, who's playing well this season, and Corey Kispert. And oddly enough, I feel better about Atlanta. Building around Jalen Johnson, the core that they have started to build up with, nice wings on that team. CJ McCollum will add an element to them as a scorer, as an off-ball player. He's not as big of a liability as Trae Young on defense. And Corey Kispert gives them an extra body, more depth, a floor spacer, some size. And then for Trae Young, him going to Washington, I feel like is about him getting another contract. They're not paying anybody. They probably would happily pay Trae Young. But you got to wonder. I mean, if you were looking for a point guard, maybe you should have just kept Denny Avdija, because now that he's playing point guard for Portland, he's putting up damn near triple doubles every single night, and you would have much rather him than.
Just the details of the Trae Young trade. I can't believe the Hawks traded him like that. He was like their whole fucking organization, bro, for like years. CJ McCollum and Kispert. Who the fuck is Kispert, bro? Nah, I need to look this up. I'm not gonna lie though. Trae Young got injured, and then Jalen Johnson just took over, man. He just took the fuck over. Like, they don't even need Trae Young. That's so crazy how shit like that happens.
Yeah, he asked for it. And he got it, making him the first NBA player ever to request a trade to the Wizards. Atlanta traded away their so-called franchise player and didn't get a franchise player in return. No headliner and nothing that moves the needle. And this is the same Trae Young that everyone's questioned for years. Can you win with him or not? The request is weird. The trade is weird. But if we're being honest, this trade should have been done years ago when Trae actually had value.
Trae Young just got sent to hell. According to Shams, Trae Young just got traded to the Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Look, we all knew it was coming to an end, but I don't think we expected it to be like this. Trae Young went from owning the Knicks, making the Eastern Conference Finals, and now this man got sent to hell. I mean, this man took full inspiration from Shannon Sharpe.
For $50 million, I go to hell.
But in all honesty, I knew this was going to happen. Trae Young is a great basketball player. He's still nice, but with Jalen Johnson and how that team's built, he just doesn't fit that system. But even though he doesn't fit the system, was a 34-year-old CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert really the best deal you could do? Fuck no. I get that his value went from this to maybe right here, but a 34-year-old shooting guard and Ryan Gosling is not the answer for your team. If that was really the best deal you could get, you should throw in Reece Shea, get a couple picks out of the trade, and start the new rebuild. The only possible value I see from this trade is that you freed up cap space, and now you can go get an Anthony Davis, maybe a Jonathan Kuminga, or someone else on the market. But other than that, it was a horrible trade. But hey, I don't know what the Hawks are going to do. I don't know what their plan is for the next couple of months. So for now, all I can do is say goodbye to an era. Oh, and by the way, Knicks fans, y'all can stop having nightmares now.
Trae Young looks like my dad's dick!
Y'all have been editing Trae Young into photos with Victor Wembanyama since we found out that man existed. Y'all have been editing Trae Young's head onto Lakers jerseys for years and years and years. All for that man to request to be traded to the career graveyard of the NBA. I don't understand what went on today. I've been an Atlanta sports fan for my entire existence. And for somebody to rather be in Washington playing for the Wizards than play for the Hawks, the Mid-Atlanta Hawks, is perplexing to me. But even more perplexing, you trade away your all-star, which I've been saying Trae Young needed to move on from Atlanta for years, but you trade away your all-star for CJ McCollum? That's the new star of the Atlanta Hawks. They're not serious. There better be a larger plan at hand. As long as I've lived, the Hawks have been mid!
Now, this is going to be an original sentence, so bear with me. He got his wish to be a Washington Wizard. I don't care how it ended. This walk right here, you feel something in your chest, man. Everybody that has some semblance of a love life, man or woman, is going to agree with what I'm going to say. This right here is the feeling when you wanted that person to leave you alone, and then they actually leave you alone. You know you want it, but it do sting. You be like, dang, I'm really not going to talk to this person tomorrow. It hurts, even just based off of basketball, because he grew up here. Anybody who grew up in their place and they didn't get along with the front office, or the front office and them had friction, or they just didn't agree on things, I don't care who it is, it hurts a little bit as a basketball fan. Because this is where you know this person from. This is the jersey you're going to imagine them in when you look back on places like this. Them rolling dice, them taking over New York. New York was chanting his name on days of football. You're intertwined with the culture. Quavo was backing him crazy like 2-3 years ago. You took this team to a Eastern Conference Finals against Giannis. This is DC Young Fly for the people that don't know. Like, I hope all things happen well for him, but dang, man.
He wanted to go to Washington, which nobody has ever said before. And then the fact that it happened so fast, and you look at the details of the trade, and no draft compensation comes back for Atlanta. They're bringing in CJ McCollum, 34 years old, on an expiring. It's essentially a glorified salary dump move that the Hawks clearly could not get done quickly enough. And the team that was willing to take him on while giving up no assets whatsoever is the team that has been the worst in the NBA for several years and really has very little in terms of a foundation and especially in terms of cap commitments. It wasn't a contender or even a fringe playoff team looking to make a win now move, thinking Trae can elevate them. It was the Wizards just kind of looking around and being like, why the fuck not? We don't even have to give anything up. Really what this move tells you is that the league is extremely low on Trae Young right now. And not just him, but players like him. Think about Ja Morant too, who's been having an especially brutal season, but the Grizzlies clearly should be more than fed up with him at this point, but it would be incredibly difficult to find a trade suitor for him who would give you any sort of real value back. And the NBA being so low on those two guys specifically speaks to a bigger, really interesting point about where the NBA is at right now, how it has changed and is continuing to change very quickly, because a half decade ago, these guys were both being advertised as two of the premier up-and-coming offensive guard talents in the NBA.
We just witnessed maybe the fastest fall from stardom in NBA history. This is what 27-year-old four-time All-Star Trae Young just got traded for. The Hawks just salary dumped Trae Young. Think about that for a second. The man is just entering his prime. And this isn't like a Derrick Rose situation where he's had a major injury. So the Hawks wanted him off the team that badly. This man is still only 27 years old. He's averaging 25 and 10 for his career. And just 5 years ago, he took them to the conference finals where people were even debating whether they'd rather have him or Luka. And now this man has fallen so far that the only team that even wanted him was basketball purgatory, the Washington Wizards, where players' careers basically go to die. You cannot have a faster fall from stardom than that. Now I'm gonna say this, and this is a message to Trae. You gotta take this as an insult, cause it is, and use it as motivation to prove everyone wrong. This is a great opportunity to go play for a team who needs star power and where there won't be a ton of pressure. Young still has everything right in front of him to turn this thing around, and I'm gonna be rooting hard for him. But I'm gonna tell you this, when you start to get this stigma as a player where teams don't think they can win with you, if he doesn't get his act together fast, he may find himself out of the league sooner than he thinks.
But if you're surprised by this return, don't be, because it was so clear over the last 48 hours that we were the only team actually interested in Trae because of the contract, because of the defensive concerns, and everything else that comes with Trae Young. And look, since I know some of y'all are going to pull up the receipts, over the years, I've made some videos criticizing Trae. You can go back to like 2019 and find tweets of me hyping up Trae before I even made content. And even a month ago, when everyone was saying, oh, the Hawks are better without Trae, I was one of the few people defending him on here. And look, at the end of the day, when Trae Young is on, he's one of the 3 to 5 best offensive players in the sport, and he brings like an FU energy that we kind of need. As for what this means the rest of the year, I don't know. I mean, I still think we're going to probably try to suck and get a top pick in the draft and keep our first, but I don't really blame the team either for not going all in on the lottery balls after how much it screwed everybody in recent memory. I also wouldn't be surprised if Trae isn't a Wizard in 2 years. Like, if this just doesn't work, let him walk in free agency. We didn't give up anything anyway. But best case scenario, Trae with a shooter in Trae Johnson, defensive wings in Bilal and Keyshawn, and the best big he's ever played with. I mean, this could be special. As for the Hawks, it just kind of feels directionless. You had to do it, but I hope you guys pay Trae his respect, because even though this didn't end well, he cared about your city and really put y'all on the map for the last decade.
Trae Young being traded from the Atlanta Hawks ushers in an entirely new era of Atlanta sports. You see, because even though the Hawks were never an amazing team, they made it to an Eastern Conference Finals, but they weren't a perennial contender. Trae was the one guy that people from Atlanta could point to and be like, that's our guy. And with the Falcons obviously being eliminated and firing Raheem Morris, Terry Fontenot, Atlanta is in a whole new era of sports now. The city now fully belongs to 1, Jalen Johnson, and 2, Bijan Robinson. And for a city that I thought was bound for a sports turnaround this year, it is so crucial that the careers of this guy and this guy are not wasted. And the Hawks are a mirror image of the Falcons except in basketball. They are mediocre. They are always hovering around 500. They cannot ever figure it out. But this trade finally gives that roster clarity that Jalen Johnson is the number 1, that he is the guy they're going to build around. But getting off of Trae Young's contract and bringing in an experienced guy like CJ McCollum, along with creating a new brain trust around the Atlanta Falcons, this city absolutely can turn it around in the sports world and become a powerhouse.
Now, from the Hawks' perspective, I'm fully on board with this move. Trae Young, it's tough, homegrown star, but I really do feel like the Trae Young experience in the modern NBA has kind of reached the end of the line. I don't know if a team that is like built around Trae Young as one of the 2 most important, highest paid players on the team will ever exist again in the NBA, even though I think he is still very offensively talented. And so getting CJ McCollum back for a guy like that, a big salary that will either be off the books this offseason or you can move later in this trade season for what it seems to be Anthony Davis. It seems like the Hawks are interested in. That's good. And getting Corey Kispert, who is a solid role player, included in this deal, that's also good. Now, Trae Young to Washington with no draft pick sweeteners at all, a little confusing. I don't fully understand it. I don't love, like, Trae Young in the short term, throwing lobs to Alex Sarr or whatever, that'll be super sick. Alex Sarr is already really good. He's never had a legit point guard like this, but I certainly don't feel like this Wizards team should be done tanking and not getting a draft pick back at all for taking on what is objectively a negative asset in Trae Young at this point. Maybe they're trying to rehab his trade value, but I wouldn't be comfortable with paying him, and I certainly don't feel like you could flip him anytime soon.
Trae Young is now a Washington Wizard. What the hell is going on in the NBA? They really got this man in NBA hell. It's no way he goes from a bad team to an even worse team. The Wizards traded CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. I'm not gonna lie, this trade is low-key whack. This probably wouldn't even go through in 2K. Shout out CJ McCollum though. He's one of the most underrated players in the league. I feel like we don't show him enough love. If he had an all-star, he definitely would be on people's minds way more. I like Trae Young. He's a great player. I feel like his talent was being wasted on the Hawks, but it's also going to be wasted on the Washington Wizards. Nobody's watching them play. I mean, just look at the records of the Hawks and the Wizards this season. These teams are definitely not in win-now mode. 18-21, 9th seed, Hawks, come on now, bruh. And the Wizards are the 14th seed. They're not even going to sniff the play-in. Even though the Wizards look horrible now, in the next 3 to 5 years, they really could be a scary contender or even one of the best teams in the league, honestly. They have so much potential.
Oh, shit. That boy Trae getting paid. After all the failed attempts, the Washington Wizards finally got their hands on their all-pro, all-NBA, all-star caliber point guard. Somebody that they can truly start the franchise behind. Being from the DMV, I'm happy that Washington finally got themselves a really good start. Like, they actually can put their foot forward and go try to win games now. As far as the Atlanta Hawks, you get CJ McCollum basically for free, and then you get a bucket of fucking cap space. I mean, go sign who you want. Pick who you want. And your young core is great already. If you look at this from a business side, it works for both. And if you look at this from a competitive side, it works for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, what is we gonna see as far as Trae Young competitive-wise? We gotta see. I'm just glad we get to see Trae Young play basketball, meaningful basketball, where he actually wants to be at. He actually wants to win for that team. This is good for both teams.
The question for Atlanta was, can a high-volume playmaker who is not overly efficient like Trae, who also has a major weakness you need to build around in his defense, be the lead guy on a serious championship contender? Since they made the Eastern Conference Finals, they have been trying multiple different ways to build around them, and nothing has taken them back to that level. Especially this year where they've been worse with him in, I understand wanting to move on, especially from a guy who's making this much money. And while CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert isn't much to get back for a guy who was, just an all-star last year, nobody around the league beat this. No contending team went and upped this offer. I think that speaks to not only how the league values archetypes like Trae's, but how being on a big $45 million contract can hurt your trade value. For the Wizards, you wonder how much they view him as a piece for the future, how much they view him as somebody who can run the show for a young team, and how much they view him as a reclamation project, somebody they hope can play better and then flip for draft assets. He's only got a couple years left on his deal, so I think regardless of what happens, it's not the end of the world if this doesn't work out with Washington either. But if you're a team like Washington, do you want to have a higher floor, or do you want to get as many ping pong balls as possible? Regardless, the thing to watch after this one, and really what makes or breaks the trade for me, is how Atlanta uses the financial flexibility. And we might see that before the trade deadline hits.
The Atlanta Hawks are sending Trae Young to the Washington Wizards. In exchange, the Wizards are sending CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert over to Atlanta. Everyone's questioning, why does Trae Young want to get sent over to Washington? Because no one's talking about this, but this is Trae Young's perfect fit. This move makes sense due to the fact not this year, but the Wizards are currently 14th in the East. They're not going anywhere. The Wizards have a lot of young players that they could build around. Trae Young is playing chess, not checkers. And what makes more sense? Bringing in a prolific point guard. This could definitely benefit Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson. Like, these guys are already filling up the stat sheet in Washington. They just need an actual point guard that can point them to the right direction on the court. Like, these guys, all they needed was an actual point guard, which is the Trae Young. And not to mention, Trae Young can still get buckets and still float around 9 to 12 assists per game. The Washington Wizards are playing chess, not checkers. And I bet you by the 2026-27 season, the Washington Wizards can arguably be top 5 in the Eastern Conference.
Young's head of the Washington Wizards in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. This is a wild drop in value for Trae Young. There were even conversations recently about Atlanta possibly having to attach a pick in order to salary dump Trae Young onto the Washington Wizards. That never materialized. It's CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, and that is it. Let's talk about this for Washington first. I actually really like the deal for them. I'm going to give it an A+. This is a fantastic buy low. It's high upside, low risk. Worst case scenario, Trae Young is bad and he leaves in the offseason because he declines the player option, or he accepts the option and you just have to pay him for another year and then he's gone. And all you gave up was a semi-rotational piece in Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum, who was going to be out of there at the end of the year anyway. Keep in mind, this is a guy they got for like Jordan Poole, and I'd much rather have Trae Young right now than Jordan Poole. So I love the move for Washington. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but I think it's smart. I think it's savvy. It's a great opportunity to buy low on a guy in Trae Young that still has a lot of talent, even though I've never really been a huge Trae Young guy. For Atlanta, I'm going to give them an A. It's not great value in exchange for Trae Young, and if you want to grade it against what they could have traded him for over the last 2 years, by all means do it. But I think it's smart to be proactive about knowing it's time to move on from a guy. And CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert are going to help them. Maybe there's an Anthony Davis trade potentially brewing here in the background that we can kind of grade in tandem with this deal. But given that Trae Young's value was what it was, they wanted to give themselves some flexibility, and they didn't have to attach a pick, which seemed like a concern here in recent days. I like the deal for Atlanta as well. A very rare win-win trade at the time of the deal in the NBA. I really, truly do like this deal for both sides.
There was definitely a handful of people that got the notification and said, that's it? That's all you're going to get for Trae Young? The reality is Trae Young's value has never been lower league-wide, and he goes to the Wizards in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. For the Wizards, for the first time in a long time, for the first time I think that I can remember since Paul Pierce, somebody actively chose to want to go and play for the organization. Trae wanted to go there, and the Wizards apparently wanted Trae as well, and I love this move for them. Now, I still have so many questions about Trae Young, the current version, being a part of an above-average top 10 level defense. You surround him with Trey Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George should be in Chris Middleton's spot, and Alex Sarr, and that is an exciting young core. They've been exciting without him, and they just needed a point guard. As for Atlanta, I love this for them too. I really think this team needed a guy that's not quite as ball dominant as Trae Young is. CJ McCollum can pick his spots and pick apart defenses like he's been doing this season with the Wizards.
All right, so let's talk about the Hawks and what they want in this situation. So they get a lot of cap flexibility due to their big contract with Trae Young versus the expiring deal of McCollum. They also get another chance to retool their roster and let some of these younger guys get an opportunity, because what we saw while Trae Young was down, they got a lot of young talent that can really hoop. And what they lost, obviously they lost a 4-time All-Star, somebody who has the ability to carry a team offensively, but he is a defensive liability. Keep that in mind. Now let's talk about the Wizards. Now, obviously, they get Trae Young, somebody who is an offensive scoring machine and that can accelerate a rebuild. They also run at risk of some chemistry issues because a lot of people have complained about Trae Young, saying they don't like to play with him and that he's not really good for team chemistry, so they say. And the worst part of this deal is now they have to commit to that long-term deal that the Atlanta Hawks have, which is, I believe, $42 or $45 million coming up this year. Y'all can remind me if I'm wrong on that.
Everybody's going to say the Wizards fleecing this deal, and I don't really know, man. Unless you live under a rock, Trae Young got moved to the Washington Wizards for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Right now, there's no first-round picks, second-round picks, anything like that. Stuff could come out, but looks like the Wizards might have got their franchise point guard they've been searching for since John Wall. Let's be for real. Offensively, Trae Young's going to be 20 and 10 every single night, consistently. But there's a reason the Hawks were 2-8 this year when Trae Young played. There's a reason that his teammates said pretty much, without saying it, they don't like playing with him. In my mind, this league is such an offensive-minded league. Everybody, I mean, you got guys, no disrespect to Denny Avdia, but he's averaging, 25, 26 points per night. The impact guys are going to play defense. Trae Young being 6 feet tall, 130, 140 pounds, he just doesn't do it for anybody defensively. For Washington, now they don't have to have guys who really aren't one guards bring up the ball. Trey Johnson, Bub Carrington, those are two guards, and Trae Young obviously can facilitate an offense.
For the Hawks, CJ's on a 1-year deal. He'll pretty much opt out. He won't come back to the Hawks next season. And they're really going forward with the young core of Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Zachary Rusache. Unless they trade for AD. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts of the trade down below and hit the follow for more NBA content, man.
Well, I'll be damned. Trae Young is on his way to DC. I mean, yes, we saw it coming, but I didn't think they were actually going to go through with it. As expected, the Hawks are trading Trae Young to the Wizards for Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum. Like I said, no surprise. If y'all saw what they did to Corey Kispert, you would understand. Remember, this report came out earlier today that Trae Young wants to go to DC, and now he's in DC. This may actually turn out pretty good for the Wizards. When you look at what they got on their roster, you would understand why I said that. So they got Alexander Sarr, Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, Marvin Bagley, Justin Champetti, Trey Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly. Then they still have Chris Middleton, now Trae Young, Cam Whitmore, Will Riley. They got some guys. Now, I didn't think this trade was actually going to go through because, one, what the hell are the Wizards going to do with Trae Young? I mean, honestly, I don't think the Wizards are going to be in true championship contention for another 5 years at the very minimum. So if they're building towards that, then that's great. But as we all know, the Wizards as a franchise just can't get it done. It doesn't even matter who's on that damn team, who's on the franchise. Them as a franchise front office, they struggle. Now, when it comes to the Hawks, they're in a solid position because they didn't really get better, but they definitely didn't get worse. You need to understand that both teams are in jeopardy of not making the play-in. Not the playoffs, the play-in. The Wizards are 14th in the East. The Hawks are 10th in the East, tied at 10th with the Bucks, who will most likely take that spot. Yes, they got Jalen Johnson and some other pieces, but just like the Wizards, it's going to be some years before they're actually in playoff championship contention. Either way, expect to see Trae Young at Rose Bar or on U Street. Either or, that's the only reason why this man came to DC, because I can't figure it out.
But I don't know how I feel about this trade. I think we all understand that this was a business decision. Once the Hawks didn't want to pay Trae Young before this season started, we knew a trade was happening. I was thinking to myself, Trae Young had to go to a team that's going to be able to pay him. And I don't think the Wizards have any big stars that they're going to have for the next 4 or 5 years. And this is a good market for Trae. The next question is, who else does the Wizards try to get to pair with Trae Young down the line? I wish this had some more excitement. A lot of people probably wanted to see Trae Young and Giannis give it a go, or have Trae Young go to Minnesota or go to some of these other teams. But him going to Washington, he's going to get the money that he wants. He's going to get the opportunity to kind of revamp himself. Him in Washington is not a bad look. A lot of players back in the past, like John Wall and Bradley Beal, had a good run in Washington, so maybe he could do the same thing. I saw Shams on TV talk about maybe the Hawks are trying to go after Anthony Davis. We'll see what's next, man. They need this trade deadline to start to get exciting. This is just the first domino piece. Can't wait to see what happens next. What y'all think about this?
What is the actual point of this Trae Young trade? The Wizards are getting a former All-Star who has not been able to win with the Hawks since 2021. I'm actually a fan of Trae Young. I wanted to see him succeed. But in Washington, how is that going to happen? This roster is just worse than Atlanta's. They do have Alex Sarr. That's a good young piece. However, Trae's prime and Alex Sarr's prime do not match. So what is Washington doing? You would think they would want to tank as much as possible. And then for Atlanta, you royally screwed up, dude. You should have traded Trae when he had some trade value. You got Corey Kispert back. Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum. Where is your franchise headed? You flopped on a number 1 pick. It seems like a disaster. This seems like a trade that we're going to look back at and go, somehow both teams lost.
Trae, I just want to say thank you, bro. I will never get rid of this jersey. For y'all non-ball knowers, bro, the ones that try to run Trae out of the city, this is for every person in Atlanta, bro, because I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I'm like getting so sick of my city, bro. Like, it'd be the ones that have never touched the basketball, be the ones that saying the Hawks are bad on defense because of one guy. Yeah, I mean, that already told you enough. That statement alone told you enough that you don't know ball. You have no idea about basketball. You're just a social media guy. You just watch highlights. That's funny coming from a reactor. But guess what? I actually watch film. Trae Young, thank you so much for everything you've done for this city, bro. Full reactions coming out, bro. I'm not going to lie. I'm hurt right now, bro. But we traded this dude for a bag of chips and a half-bitten molded fry. A molded fry, bro. Atlanta, bro, I am so done with you guys. You guys suck. This city sucks, bro. I'm so done.
But Trae Young reportedly wanted to go to Washington. It was his preferred destination. And you know what? I think this is a win-win trade for both teams. For the Hawks, you have now added depth. You have gotten rid of Trae Young, who is just terrible on defense, and terrible for the Hawks this year. Trae Young, I think Atlanta won 2 games with Trae Young in their lineup. Like, genuinely, I don't think they won more than 2 games with Trae Young, playing. But they've added depth. They've got Corey Kispert, C.J. McCollum, and I think that'll benefit Atlanta very much. For Trae Young and the Wizards, Trae Young will get to run this offense. He'll be lobbing the ball to Alex Sarr every game. He could have, it hasn't been a good season for Trae Young, but I think this change of scenery will be good for him. And now the Wizards, they got a real good playmaker in Trae Young, and who knows?
I know that you guys won't care about this, but to me as an NBA fan, this is war. You're meaning to tell me that Trae Young gets to go to Washington for C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert, but the Miami Heat didn't have a better deal than that? Brother, Trae Young, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Norman Powell. We would have won the chip.